Everyone, I call to order the first wonderful meeting of the day for me, the probably, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth for other people, of the Public Transportation Advisory Committee, Wednesday, November 13th. We start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our printed agenda is the review of minutes. Does everybody have a chance to review the minutes, and are there any corrections as they were distributed?
Motion to pass the minutes as submitted.
Pardon?
Make a motion to pass the minutes as submitted.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. If there's no discussion, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting minutes from last time are accepted as submitted. And agenda item number 3 on our agenda is related to the master plan. And for that, we have our regular now guests, which is wonderful to see. And I see you brought maps this time, like real, actual, hands-on maps. So that's fantastic. Can I just ask before we jump into, or before we turn it over to you, who submitted this?
That was our.
That was your take on it. Okay.
I don't want to take credit for that. That was Lindsay that assembled that.
Okay.
Rough outline to be discussed.
All right. Very good. I just wanted to see whence that came. All right. And our friends from the Stratford Regional Planning Commission.
Good evening. I'm Mark Davey. This is Colin Lentz. Are we allowed
Yeah.
to gather at the table?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do
Follow
that.
the map?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yes, I think so too. That was the exciting part for the day.
Yeah. So, this is actually perfect because when I assembled this map this morning, we discovered that our sidewalk layer for the whole, or for at least for Newmarket, was out of date. So this is an opportunity to, you want that? Yeah. To confirm where Newmarket's sidewalks are. The gold is no sidewalks, the blue is with sidewalks. So, what are we missing? What needs to be added?
Just for the sidewalks,
Yes. As for the trails layer, the trails are going to be the same on all 3 maps. That comes from the state granite layer. I forget what the acronym is, but it's the state GIS clearinghouse for trail maps. It's okay. It's not great. So a lot of the individual conservation lands in individual towns is kind of wonky. So when we move to the second poster, we'll be interested in finding out if there's like a trail mapping element that can make it into the as a goal of the master plan in the end. And maybe that'll fall a little bit under the recreation chapter in addition to the transportation chapter. But anyway, this is just sidewalks, and then we'll get into some of the road, street typology categorization that we've been discussing a little bit.
And trails isn't on the map, right? Or
Trails are on here.
Okay.
So we'll do sidewalks and trails here.
Or just
We can do both.
okay.
Yeah.
They seem to be somewhat related.
Yeah. We could also do like the desired connections within town on the street typology map as well. So, yeah.
What would you prefer?
Sidewalks and trails. We can just do that. Yeah. Here.
You said there were...
Yeah, just sidewalks starting in,
Yeah, we actually are
well, yeah, it's gonna be more.
momentarily going to be finished here.
Okay.
South Eden sidewalk. Through here, down here. This is class 6 road, I don't know.
The sidewalk going into, there.
There it is into Tanner Circle,
Yeah.
right?
So are these existing or planned?
These are existing.
Well, one is construction and then.
Well, I think we should
Give
just
it
call
another
it.
couple weeks.
The construction is not planned, it's actually,
Almost done.
Okay, fantastic.
Does it go to Bennett?
Oh, see.
Has been, yeah.
I think it does go to Bennett, and we
So
have
Bennett
some
goes to-
up Bennett, but it does not go past here, I think. Oh, the purple pen is not really the best.
I was.
oh, it's
Oh, a
pretty
purple
good.
highlighter, perfect.
Oh, purple highlighter. I like all that shit.
Good job.
Well, that don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, get a new map.
Coast just don't go.
So Bennett Way does not have sidewalk then?
One
Just that,
segment.
that piece, we need to close the gap on that.
Does it go into Tanner? Or does it stop? I can't remember.
I think it stops at the
Okay.
mailbox. No, it goes around,
Yeah.
but I mean, the circle's not there.
Yeah.
So it's in there.
You can draw the circle, pretend you know exactly how it's laid out. As a reminder. I
Yes,
guess.
right.
There it is. Lady slipper, I don't know. I think we do have here on both sides, right?
I think so.
Not sure how
Yes, this
far.
is, yeah, that's on both sides.
We're gonna confirm because we just got an updated Google
There.
Maps.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm actually at Castro,
True
but I
for-
stole my soul. I've had that happen to me before. Yeah.
Or Exeter, how far does Exeter Road go?
It
Goes down.
stops at the car wash, which is
Right.
kind of right at this curve.
That is, okay.
Yeah.
It also stops at the train tracks. It's not continuous across the train tracks.
where-
It just,
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
shoot,
true.
I forgot.
Right over here.
it's right here, this area, right,
Oh.
there's a break. Well, this is, that's, so it's actually
That's New
up
Road,
here.
yeah.
It's up in this area. But it's not a good situation with pedestrians.
where the little layers symbol.
Yeah, it is
Hiding
very
there.
awkward there, especially since the
Yeah.
sidewalk altogether disappears on the left-hand side.
It completely disappears, the sidewalk on both sides of the train tracks. but
Yeah, so there's like a little, you see a little sidewalk right here. It's like
Uncurved.
very, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go up to, go down Jerry Ave and down Exeter Road towards Exeter.
So New Road, wait, you get New Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
They got it correctly.
We can do this. How far down, Mike?
Right in the train tracks.
Ooh, that's a long time ago.
But see, right there, that's such a potential for,
So the sidewalk is
Well,
still
this is
there.
a long time ago, I think. There
That
we go.
is a long time ago.
Yeah, there we go. So we got sidewalk up to the
Yep.
train track,
and on the other side, it
yeah,
zeroes out to like nothing.
nothing.
And that's on the inside of the curve where cars hug the white line and people are walking in the lane sometimes. So I just feel that's a really problematic spot.
Yeah, I agree. Especially since it just stops on one side, and on the other side you have some room to walk right there. Yeah, that's where it ought to be. But on
Only
the,
right there,
on
stands.
the other side, you just, all of a sudden, there are just train tracks.
Okay.
And as far as connecting trails, it seems to me that the town has a right of way here for a water line interconnect. Although the houses at, it's such a narrow thing, but to have not connected these, I think, in some way, just even from a pedestrian path. But there is this right-of-way, little easement for a water line that we have through there. I'm not so sure if the connection could be made realistically or not, but
Well, it's something that one could explore.
it seems like it would be so helpful.
So should
one
we-
way to at least.
Should we do an orange dashed line, so for like trails or something in that?
Then we need to have a little, we need to keep track of what all the markings mean, right?
Yeah, we'll create a legend.
Okay.
Orange is opportunity.
Orange is opportunity.
These look like two different colors on the map, so this is obviously not open water, that's,
Wetlands.
well, yeah.
It's those connectors that are, so we have, why is this all no name?
That's just how the roads layer split it out, the roads map split it out, so it could be private driveways or shared,
No data.
This is
Yeah.
probably from the E911 mapping, and they just drove everything they could drive.
Yeah.
And if it didn't have a name, that's, it got automatically labeled that.
There are also trails in here that are not on here as well.
Yeah.
town or cells or,
They're
Town.
Audubon and Town,
Yeah.
and they do connect, so it's a good system to have on there, because it's a potentially a connectivity off of, you're paralleling, in quotes, 152 for a period of time.
Right. So
Almost to the lead line. It's right in here.
So I'm not sure if this is the time to mention this, but I drive Bay Road a lot, and the sidewalk ends here. And then, right in here, there's a hill,
Yeah,
and there's large rocks on either side,
yeah.
no shoulder. And there's a good bit of pedestrian traffic along there. Yesterday, I was coming up from town, coming over the hill. It was dusk, two people wearing black walking in the travel lane. Just sauntering down the travel lane, I came over the hill, and there they were. And that's not an uncommon situation on that stretch of road. Well, I don't know.
Are there streetlights along there
No.
at all? No.
It's a scenic road too. I think so.
Yeah, a few years
Complicates
back,
things.
we talked, there was an item where people would like to see a sidewalk coming out to Cushing. People here who were the ones who walked a lot actually didn't want it. But I think they might have been fiscally conservative people. I don't know, but it was interesting how people who walked, who didn't want the sidewalk.
I don't know, I think as a minimum, there should be a sign that says frequent pedestrian traffic or watch for pedestrian traffic or something, because it's, I mean, I don't think any pedestrian signs, but it's not a small number of people that walk that route.
Yeah, no, these two rows, there are a lot of people who walk.
Yeah, you'll see women with baby carriages just in the travel lane, because there's no place to go. No shoulder.
That's true of so
And-
many roads. You know what would be a good feature maybe to add is the speed limits on the,
That's 25 miles per hour. All of this from this point to this town line is 25, which is, in my view, very nice.
Yeah.
Because it enables the police to pull people over and educate them. And they don't write people unless they're really doing a lot more than that. I use this as an example of how it should be done compared to in Durham. It goes to 35 at the town line and it changes in one direction, and it's kind of silly. Newmarket's speed limit is great there.
Our Depot General, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a good example, I think, of what we were looking for input. If there's just a little gap right there and a sidewalk that length would open up this entire neighborhood access to downtown,
Yeah.
that's the kind of connectivity thing that I think we're interested in discussing. So
Yeah.
that putting it in the
And back when people said no to it, there was a sidewalk here.
Right.
That's fairly new. So
That was
now
in
there's a
last
sidewalk
year,
marked
yeah.
way.
Because there's that little,
And you
little
all-
parking lot over here.
And you also have that, you know, the connection through the mills into this too, so it's a, there's a lot of looping going on there.
So same thing with these little pocket neighborhoods, where those potential good connections will be, because that was the theme that jumped out at me from the outreach, was people desiring to walk to downtown or walk the bike or connect.
And there's the you know, making the connections where there are little breaks. And then there are the opportunities that you pointed out, Mike, where you could connect, you know, neighborhoods through pedestrian-only ways. Because that's a really safe way to do it and much less expensive than
Lindsay, what do you think
Sidewalk.
about from the Great Hill Water Tower to Exeter Road? We've got a right of way. The problem is it's really steep.
really.
Yeah,
It's very steep, but it's right there.
I think it would be,
Almost.
one of the other things we're looking at is, I don't know if it would be all the way to Great Hill, but we're looking at pedestrian safety from basically this end of Percy Lane. That's where it turns to the route, right? Yeah, so from here to like Great Hill, because there are not currently any crosswalks or designated pedestrian crossings, and there are a lot of people from this neighborhood, from Lady Slipper, Great Hill, Mockingbird and Fulton Drive, and we need to close this gap. So we've gotten general public feedback that sidewalks to connect this and bring it here. There are a lot of people that do this route,
Yeah.
and this is the gap, and then just kind of extending it to pick up some additional neighborhoods for walking safety specifically.
Are there possibilities to link, you know, the ends of these cul-de-sacs so that, you know, rather than, you know, you have to walk this way, but you
That would be great. I don't know.
We want, most of these have work on private properties side by side. So usually the only time is when we have some sort of right of way, public land.
Yeah, and that was because of the water tower
Yeah,
up there.
but most of these, the property owners are right next to each other. There's no, you'd have to
They
get
don't
an
get-
easement somehow.
can, yeah.
Do we want a new color? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, what's the advantage of doing this? Because then they're now on Exeter Road with no sidewalks. There's no, I mean, unless
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah, it
idea to
would be-
connect these, this,
It's more like a sledding hill
Less-
anyway.
It would be safer to come this
Get a
way.
runoff road for the sleds.
Yeah.
then we'll have to put some kind of ramp across Exeter Road for the
Well,
sleds.
I mean, you talk about that sledding hill, they use people who will drive down the Exeter Road. And the town closed it every winter because it was impossible to plow, and they finally stopped. But the old paper road is still there, just between 33 and 20, whatever, 7.
The other road that people, or I frequently hear people talk about as being unsafe or a little weary of is the rest of Grant Road here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people tend to come in with quite a bit of speed. And I mean, I guess that's the question that like, what are the actual speed limits, and to what extent are they obeyed because of the layout of the road, and what could be done to make it a little bit safer? I mean, I bike this as a loop, not too frequently, but you know, off and on, and for bicycling it's not so bad at all. But for a pedestrian, I think that's challenging.
Yeah, I've got these mixed feelings on just signage alone, because most
Right.
people don't pay attention to signage, but the road geometry people do. If there are vertical curves and horizontal curves and,
Yeah.
you know, one friend of mine was joking, he was going to install potholes.
Right.
Is one place I
Cobblestones.
saw, every intersection was a tabletop.
Oh.
So you couldn't do 40 over it, just slow down to
Yeah.
30.
Yeah,
And it seems like that's something that, the geometry piece, because every time we widen the road, people just go faster.
I agree, totally.
Something to keep in mind, just on this segment of Grant Road, that is DOT.
Right,
Ours.
right.
We don't have as much flexibility there.
I think that goes way out to something like here or somewhere.
Yeah,
Pretty far out.
Yeah,
I forget where
it goes almost all the way to the town line.
Yeah, there's a sign that tells you when it is, but
So is there a good, then they have any like handle on how much pedestrian traffic is out that way? Once you get past these.
Past Briellia Circle, I don't know.
I observe, on Grant Road, I mostly observe bicycle traffic, that's not motorized traffic. People coming off of, this system, Bald Hill, then coming down Grant Road, that's quite popular as a bicycle route.
Well, any other gaps you all see in this, we're kind of organically moving to the next thing, which is looking at that, the different road geometries and things like that to discourage speeding, but same thing with the trails, if there are any obvious gaps that we can put into the data when we get back to the office.
There is this one, so you
We can take that
Find that
up from
map.
Audubon or whoever.
Yeah.
all trails, so somebody should have
There's
it.
a trail along.
there's a trail down here that then connects to a trail that comes up this way.
Okay.
And it's a very well-marked and well-used trail.
And the town has, at least the Conservation Commission, they own some of the land, the town owns some of the land, we're going to consolidate. So there's already easements there, there's some town land we're looking to consolidate to make it into more of a, not park, but like a conservation area. And also trail connectivity is high priority in that area. And that'll be our access related to Durham. Because there's,
There is, you can walk through here
yes.
into Durham. It's crossing wetlands, which is not always,
But
not
there's some,
always possible, but
there's some opportunities to, for the town to have some interest in that area, and work with partners across the town line to further, connect.
Yeah, there's all sorts of publicly owned land.
Yeah.
There's a strip of, there's a lot of different owners, but it's publicly held one way or another. People, UNH is one of them. They go all the way to campus from essentially here, and, you have to cross over there. But there is a path that goes from Boulder to this no name, it was an old fire lane required. And it's just, there's a gate across it, but you can drive it except for the gate. I don't know if that's
Sorry,
something.
block.
There's
It's
just
off,
nothing
it's
there?
off Lamprey Street.
What's that?
It's off Lamprey Street.
Yeah, it goes like this.
Oh, no, that's a different one, yeah,
Okay.
there's the one that goes from Boulder, and, yeah,
Goes to Dane.
it goes, there's one that goes something like this.
Yep.
Oh, I
That's
see,
the one.
it comes like
Yeah,
this, and
that's
then
the
goes in.
Yep.
And I've called that ice pond path, there's the old ice ponds there, but, and this is town land here, it's conceivable it can come through there, but it's wetlands and briars, and prickers right now.
Is that at the,
Yeah, that's
at the electric lines?
No,
Am I-
it's,
am I turned
further
around?
The actual
down.
lines are right here.
Oh, okay.
No, this actual subdivision owns that area where that path is in.
Yeah, let's see.
Right, Boulder.
Okay, so you're on the ice pond path, that it kind
That's
of goes
actually
to
this,
here.
Condominium associated land right here.
that was part of the approval where.
Yes, there's a trail that cuts in right across from San, we're right in here somewhere, and then it goes all the way to Dame Road.
is that a long-established trail, or is that
More
Long-
recent.
Yeah, it's recent, yeah.
recent?
It was part of the Rocky, or Boulder Lane, Rocky Road, I used to call it. But yeah, that's actually. It's on the other side of the street.
Right.
Let's see.
Is it? Or not touchscreen, is it?
No.
Is this,
It's right in there somewhere.
So is it kind of, is it marked or informal?
It's a
Marked,
little bit,
marked.
it's actually a little bit more clear now because actually it looks like,
I find it.
is it public or is it for
Public.
residents?
Yeah, it's-
Well,
Only?
it's,
to the right away,
yeah, it's,
public access.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it might be right by that guardrail.
yeah, it's after it, I think. It's there.
I think it's
It's
on the other
where-
side of the guardrail.
Just gotta kind of melt into the woods.
Yeah, that's exactly, so
If there's
Yeah.
more dates, maybe a winter picture is better.
Where's the date right there? Try that.
But something potentially to be developed to get folks along here, not going out to 108 and kind of even popping out down here where the.
Oh, wait a second, you know what the one I was talking about connecting over here it is? They've got it called Fire Lane A.
Oh,
I saw that on
Yeah.
Google Maps earlier, yeah.
Yeah, it's that one, I was talking about over here.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, actually, once Bart started doing that, I realized.
well, that would make quite a nice circle right there, if that were not gated, or at least.
I go around it on my mountain bike all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
It's gonna be great. Alright, good. Yeah, let me try.
It goes
Yeah,
nowhere.
you find
You
it.
come out here, then you're in
Maybe
this,
past the gate.
Danger,
this is
Right.
pretty dangerous area.
But is this, so this is the fire lane here, and I'm guessing it cuts off?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's what the gate is.
there's the gate, that's it right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It used to be better marked though, I remember.
Little deer trail.
No, I feel it's,
I wonder if
That's the problem.
I don't remember that.
So that, we were talking about, we need to sign it because nobody knows
No,
No, I would never walk
That's a
in
public
there.
right of
No.
way?
Yeah,
That's a, it's a
it's easement.
easement for public access, to walking access.
Wow, and that's not marked, that's too bad.
So the conservation, it was part of a conservation subdivision, so they had to conserve some land. And in that, they also provided a walking path.
This thing's kind of trouble. Are these residential here, and there's a little, that's somewhat unusual. I'm not sure if that's an actual.
That's
trail.
a conservation easement,
Okay.
access easement. I don't know if it's,
You can bicycle it,
That's the fire access.
but you can't drive
Oh,
it.
that one.
okay.
Looking
Well,
out
at least
from the
that's the way
circle.
I've always experienced it, because it's
Isn't
private
that cool?
property.
Private on this side, and
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is a
isn't
private
that
road.
neat?
Yeah. There's also a trail here. This is the sewer well right here, and there's a trail that goes through the woods here, and then hooks up with a trail that goes down. We're missing the Piscassic kind of.
Here comes this one.
Yeah. Yeah, the trail goes farther,
You know.
but that's private land.
Yeah.
But it would be, there's a trail that goes all the way to, comes out here, but that's really,
Yeah, considering that public access.
yeah, that's not public access, but this definitely is. And this would be a super nice way to create connectivity to these trails right here.
How can we get down here? You know, up from the north, like a passage, that'd be my goal is how do we get the greenway connected to the north end of town. So you have a nice cut through. Then you have people theoretically come from Manchester or from the west and then get off this way. Do the cut through instead of going like 108 and up.
Mercury Road, is that the new name of that?
I don't know what that is.
Mercury Road?
I always call it that. Needle Road.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on the map too, and I've never seen that before.
That should be a trail, right?
That's
Trail,
an old road that's now a
I
trail.
think, is this one class 6? This is class 6.
That's,
That-
that is, I don't know, the
the old Lee Road.
The old Lee Road that comes into, no, that's been trail too, I think.
Right, that's what,
It's a class
sorry.
trail now, class
Yeah.
A trail.
Class 6
Class A
is
trail,
Class A
Class A
trail.
trail.
I'm gonna mark where I know that we have bike ped counts from this
Class
summer.
A trail.
Bottom level road or
Yeah,
actually.
we recently
Yeah.
changed
Top
it.
level trail.
Class A trail is the same as a Class 6 road?
No, it's
No,
different.
it
I
was,
didn't think so, okay. But
sorry.
it is now a Class A trail?
Yes.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
With stars, I just marked where we have, we did bike ped counts this summer. There's a couple, we did one at Loisel and we did one at,
And this should really be, this should be marked as trail as well.
yes, it should, yeah.
Just because it's just more
Yeah.
accurate.
And that's probably just how the state had it marked up on their thing, but yeah.
So, I don't know these trails up here that are in orange, but it seems like this is leading with some gaps to downtown.
Right.
That perhaps, you know, coming in here or adding a little sidewalk here, or perhaps up there, would connect all of this into a back way.
This comes in right before the little bridge here. And the sidewalk is, I mean, we're almost there. If we had sidewalk going up to that conservation land, we would have a walking connection to this trail system, and you could walk all the way to the top of Waterley Falls Road there.
Yeah, two things, DOT has jurisdiction, and there's a bridge there.
Right.
Yeah, so it'd be expensive. for
Right,
sidewalk,
so-
Not impossible.
Not impossible,
but-
but.
And the other thing is, what alternatives are there? Right. You know,
So there are alternatives, you coming off Maston, right here, so the town owns land right here already. There's opportunities for the town in the future in this area here to make these these are like opportunities. So there are some pre-existing trails in here, but opportunities to reinforce connectivity, expand connectivity. And I think this would be a perfect outlet right here, because then you got some, pick up some sidewalks there.
Will come down
Yeah.
if you wanted to go to the
Exactly.
main part.
Yep.
Anybody know the rating of this bridge? Like,
Oh,
does it
it's-
need repairs?
you would not even notice that you're going over a bridge.
Yeah, it's a DOT bridge, it's,
Anybody know the rating of it?
well, it's what they call it, probably unnamed, what do they call it, there's a sign on it, it said, all the ones that are unclassified. Oh, I can't remember.
Not E2, but
Yeah, something like
just
E6.
a weight rating.
Yeah, E6 means we haven't engineered it or something. or- It says here.
It meets the technical definition for a bridge, but you can't really see it if you're going by.
I think that bridge would be a fantastic place for a fantastic placemaking opportunity. I know this sounds kind of odd, but if you have, you know, planters, let's say, on the guardrails, you know, you create a spot that,
Almost like a gateway.
yeah, like a gateway into town, because that's when the 30 zone starts, and you're kind of entering the quote-unquote village.
Well, the nice thing about that too is it's kind of a nonverbal signal, you know,
Yes.
that,
Yes,
okay, things are changing now, start
Exactly
looking
right.
out, you're in a town.
exactly right, yeah, that's what I,
A
yeah.
gentleman doing it, right?
I just wasn't, what we call senior housing, we do get a lot of pedestrians coming from that.
Yes, we do,
All the way to town.
yes.
Right here.
So how do they get to town? Do they just
They
walk
walk on
down?
the side of 152,
It has a decent shoulder for
except for over that bridge.
part, except that spot, exactly
Yeah.
right.
Well,
So DOT might, if there's a need, they might be convinced that something should be done. Problem is though
Stand
too,
for the compact out.
then they make the town plow it.
Yeah.
If they put it
Let's take
in,
a look
we
at it.
have to sign a contract saying we'll maintain it.
okay.
And sometimes that's a big ask. You know, for the amount of pedestrians we
Is there a
have.
bridge?
You know, yeah, so right, there- it is dangerous there. I mean, you see the white
So
lines
does
pretty
it-
much on the,
I've never
Oh, so
actually
what's the
made this
waterway
connection,
under there?
but
Is it just wetlands?
Piscassic Moonlight Road.
So we'll be having more.
the wayfinding
more
signs
flow
here always
because
point
of-
to the connection to Shanda Drive.
Yeah.
Is that a,
That could be
Yeah,
a
right.
real,
accessible?
I think
Yeah.
that is, I think there is a real.
Yeah, you can't go all the way to
Yeah.
Shell Drive, yeah.
I've never made it, because it just
question, probably a couple of times, like Mother's Day.
Oh, I was walking, so I walked up right next to somebody's house, so, but there was a trail, whether it's official or not.
It is, yeah, I mean, you have a sign telling you can go that way.
It says
so-
Chinna Drive,
Right.
yeah.
So, so that means you can walk pretty safely all the way down here.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Chinna Drive's great for walking.
So, there's definitely a connection here.
Yeah, it does go right up, yeah, right about there.
Because then I mean, that's quite a ways on Grant Road that you're, I'm just thinking there's a connection here, right, that we could potentially create.
Is that Ashmore or Grant?
That's Grant Road.
Grant Road, yeah.
Ashmore.
It's looking like that's the burn trail, is that trailhead that's sort of popping up on the rail trail?
This one here?
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, there's a little, you're crossing, there's a right of way across private land, or, I don't even know if it's a right of way, but it's, the landowner is,
Says, please be
yes,
nice.
exactly right. It's a very short section, and then it becomes the greenway. That's a really fantastic connection. I guess the other spot that we should maybe spend some time on is the trailhead down at the.
Working. I
It's
think we
such
have.
a work in progress right now.
Sorry about that.
But it does, well, no, it actually, the trail is actually
Yeah.
in Newfields.
It is.
Yeah, just,
But the parking that is there is
Is
at Newmarket.
You definitely work with
Some of
landowner.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of it, yeah, yeah.
Oh, at least the person with the rail depot, you definitely work with. I think.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy.
It would be nice to have that be clear and what's the, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he supports it, I think just waiting for the town to figure out, what to do.
Yeah.
As far as wayfinding and parking?
Yeah, like how it can be more of a partner. I totally agree, like, we can, that's the, it's just not a great way from there to downtown.
Well, the way I tend to go is I'll go up over the bridge and go then
New
New Road.
Road.
Yeah,
okay.
and going over that bridge is
Yeah.
scary.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is.
Terrible. Yeah, definitely a check to make sure there's nobody, actually I try not to do it anymore, I put my bike in the back of the truck.
Yeah, I mean,
Or so on.
I guess it depends on the time of day and
Yeah,
year
yeah.
too, but yeah, it's not a fun connection, but that would be the
Yeah.
best way to get there. And a lot of people bike on New Road too. That's a pretty,
Well, yeah, it's just so much safer. If
Yeah.
this was safe, a lot of people would take this, but it's just not safe, so you
Right.
just go around.
and what is this? Do we know?
Maybe a paper road.
Well,
Yeah.
that's probably
what
industrial, no, this is
Paper
industrial
road, so
park.
just on paper.
Oh,
Because there's one that goes to the industrial park, goes to the town land back here, but I don't know about that one.
I don't think there is a road there.
No,
I
there's
don't know
not.
if there is.
No. Should we scribble on that one?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we should erase it, so to speak, yeah. I've never noticed that before.
On the outside,
I think it's a driveway, but
Oh,
there's nothing that connects that way.
Right.
Yeah, there's a driveway that goes out here, it's a dirt road, it's
This is
terrible.
probably it right here, the farm.
Which one?
There's Newmarket storage,
Newmarket storage way down here.
and see, this, even Google has it,
Well, that's this no-name road, that's,
so this property. So
Yeah, but
over
it's
driveway.
it's only marked, right? There's no actual trail underneath it.
No, that's driveway, I think, to this place.
Yeah,
And then,
like some of those roads in Maine that don't exist. They're planned, but they don't.
check out Nottingham Northwood, man, I was temporary building inspector on those places, you go down these dirt paths that you need four-wheel drive, and there's like 20 houses in $1 million house.
Northwood's weird.
Northwood and Nottingham, both of them. Northwood's worse, probably. It's crazy.
Well, luckily we don't have to deal with that.
Remind me how we are on time. Are we till 8:30 or?
It's open-ended,
Yeah.
so.
Well, just thinking of that new road, if there, it looks like there's more for us to pour over and kind of get back to you all on some of these trails and their level of officialness for potential connections. But thinking of what you just said about New Road as an alternative to 108. Or
Provide, yeah.
So, in thinking of what Lindsay was looking up, the different kind of local street classes, whatever, you know, categorization, where an ideal cross-section for New Road that would discourage speeding, and make this, you know, get to the trailhead from downtown, and just skip 108 if you're on a bike.
It is not a, in my experience anyway, not a heavily traveled road at all.
Until
Well,
there's
and
an
you're
accident
cut off.
here.
Yeah,
Once there's an accident here, there's
It is the.
tractor
narrow
trailer
route.
trucks trying to go down there.
yeah. But as far as bicycles are concerned, it's a pretty safe road
Yes.
the way it is.
Yep. It's bumpy enough.
Yeah, and then up and down and curvy to
Yeah.
discourage people to go over.
Although we did have one resident who used to complain about
Speed.
he became town council member, but
Because of that. There are also some trails around the school that are, I don't know where they're very short.
There are some, much of that is private property.
Yeah, I know, but people use it
True.
all the time.
but yeah, we can't really.
No, I know, but it would, since they're there,
It's,
if there's a mechanism for us to establish a relationship so that the trail can become,
a lot of this.
yeah,
This is the elementary school.
yeah,
This is the high school. And it's a lot of the trails that go through here and across to
Right.
Terrace Drive.
yeah.
From the end of Hawkins.
Yeah, behind the elementary school, to the
Yeah.
side of the elementary school, behind the recreation fields, and into through the woods up here. And you can even, if you're adventurous bicycle.
Just added in that class 6 road, this back here. I forget the name of it, but
There's also the back, like entrance to the rec center from Maple, that cul-de-sac. Like, it's
Yeah.
unofficial,
oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
that's why I go.
It would be interesting to have students from the schools kind of show those trails that they use, informal trails.
Oh, like the students, like the ways that they get to school.
Yeah, yeah, because if I live here, clearly I'm not going to, go around this way, there's a
Right.
trail. And I
Yeah.
don't, that's what the kids do.
If it's for students, is there any hope of those informal goat paths becoming actual
That's,
trails? It's like, yes, this is part of your backyard, but for the children, like that kind of pitch.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
They're
people
already
have done-
doing it,
Yeah.
Right,
like actually getting easements and
Yes.
Mhm.
marking and improving the trails so that,
yeah, so it feels a little bit safer
yeah.
to the first time user. Yeah, exactly.
Somersworth did a fairly similar thing with a transportation alternatives grant where they were able to link all of their, I think it's maybe just, elementary, middle, and high schools. But they were all fairly close together to the downtown with combination of sidewalks and paved, like forest paths between houses. That becomes-
Did they use
This
easements for
trail
that,
as
or
well.
was it a different mechanism?
That's what I'm wondering. I
John,
drive
this
past
trail
one of them now
yeah,
when I go to
Karen
daycare,
Point?
drop off.
Yeah.
Where there's a sidewalk and all of a sudden it just sort of goes off into the woods between houses, like a paved path, and I see students using it all the time.
Maybe it was something like that. I don't know.
Well, if it's paved, then that's,
I mean, I think they clearly got an easement at some point.
Yeah.
but
I'm curious to know, I'm curious to know more about these like cul-de-sac into town connections
Mhm.
that people are interested in. Is this the only one? Is there other ones?
You could draw a line on the back of almost any cul-de-sac.
There is a
Well, the
connection
problem
between
is
these
that
two
they-
as well.
Private
That's a
property.
sure.
For sure.
Those,
Right, there's a connection here as well,
And
an informal one.
these, I think, would take some distance off this, off this walk. And I guess that'd probably be where they'd be most valuable.
This would be complicated though, because this is where there are commercial businesses along here, there's like a gas station. And so we don't necessarily want to have people walking that way, but connecting this to this and then only having to extend the sidewalk here instead of trying to go here, because this is where it starts to get steep and more narrow and not as financially viable to add a sidewalk. But
So just do this section here and
Yeah.
then have people,
yeah, there's also kind of the idea of share row or complete streets where the bicyclists and the pedestrians and cars all share together and just make it so cars cannot go fast. Because, you know, with the same kind of idea, if we put in a sidewalk, we have to tile it and salt it and have the easement and all that stuff.
I think we're pretty well traveled, so yeah, they look like they're
Spray painted trail markers.
Which one's this?
very
These
informal.
are-
The ones that go from Hawkins Drive to the
Some
community center.
folks have just taken shots in the
Yeah.
woods on the trails.
Yeah,
Talent.
presentation.
See where it's
that's
That's a nice path.
well
Look
traveled.
at that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where is this?
Geez,
Go
these
between the
are-
behind the school?
They're back,
Oh, wow.
back in this area.
yeah.
But that's-
They are real trails.
Yeah, so that's obviously being used all the time.
2020, Tom Pringle.
But we have to, I mean, but they're not formal trails, right?
Right, because some of them do cross private property, but
So is that, I mean, it probably would be a lengthy process, but it would be, I think it would be worth it.
I don't know. It would be worth asking Amy a little bit more, because I think she uses some of them
With the
for
kids.
rec programs.
Mhm.
So she's probably familiar with
Okay.
the property owner and,
Well, if I was a landowner and had kids crossing my property anyway, and I was letting them, I'd rather have the town have it, not have the liability of
Yeah.
kids on my property.
What's the other?
I wonder if one of the outcomes of the master plan could be putting out feelers to the various neighborhoods in like, maybe not landowners directly, but some of these backwoods connections.
Identify one that is desirable, then
Huh?
follow, but if we identified one
Yeah.
like that, it looks very desirable.
Or you have one neighborhood that's really about it, then you can roll with them as your champion versus one of the neighborhoods that's not as into it.
I mean, some of these people in here, if you talk to them, they may have an organic way to get that we don't know about.
Right,
You know? I mean, we all know as a kid, you found your way.
And even if not downtown from here, it could be here to here into the trail network to school.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get myself oriented to reverse, but it looks like they're ones, they just crisscross through that whole
Yeah.
section. They're little kind of spot tree photos that people have taken. I'm guessing there's a trail right out of the Memorial Ball Field that's in there.
Yeah,
Lemon
there's-
Roche.
Yep,
it kind of comes out the end right
But
here.
there's a gate that you can go through to get to access the trail.
So,
The informal trail that doesn't look informal at all.
No.
yeah, so, yeah, if, I don't know what would be
Unofficial.
interested
And
in.
Yeah.
maintaining some of our official trails.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right, very well traveled.
So if there's a recommendation for, yeah, that kind of gatekeeper group, whether it's PTA or neighborhood association or something, that would be a receptive audience to what these became formal. And the kids have shown you where, like the path of least resistance, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
Will we plow those?
the streets one.
Will it like maintain in order?
No, and that's, you know, it's like the Rocking Rail Trail, and, you know, a little bit different way, because you're allowed to use snowmobiles in this, but, you know, some of these become snowshoeing and cross-country trails in the winter. And that's why I'm not really in agreement with the DOT saying you have to plow everything. Some people like to snowshoe, or take their fat tire bike, or whatever.
They'll require for sidewalks, in talking to communities about, I don't
Trails,
believe,
yeah, they wouldn't,
I
yeah.
don't believe you'd have any, if you're using DOT dollars, you wouldn't necessarily be required to plow a paved multi-use path. And you certainly wouldn't have to buy sidewalk plow. You know, if you have the school groundskeeper or whatever, I'm guessing they've got a pickup with a plow, just zip across that.
Yeah.
You'd have to build it load bearing for a pickup truck, but you don't have to do anything new theoretically if you were to paint that. But that's a few other steps.
It probably would be much better to just have unofficial signs for the unofficial trails. That unofficial there are some, this is the class 6.
Yeah,
road
that's
here.
a class 6 road that, it continues, and it's really pedestrian only.
Yeah,
People do take mountain bikes, but the first couple of little steps, you kind of have to dismount and then get back on your mountain bike.
and then where's the Fish and Game?
And it's right here, it's right behind the Public Works facility. So,
Pretty much right in that elbow.
yeah, it goes up. Well, actually, yeah, the private owner, their own thing, it up to
This
here.
green, that's Fishing Game.
Is
Oh,
it?
that's it, right
Yep.
here? Okay. That would be worth marking too, because it's highly underutilized,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe it shouldn't even be there, but,
Yeah, I'm surprised Fishing Game holds on to it, just because they don't pay taxes, that's why, but it doesn't really.
it's hard to access, it's really steep.
Yeah, they kind of turned away from us when we wouldn't do the boat ramp they wanted to do downtown. The town said no, and they said, well, we're not going to do anything more with the town. Then they just kind of, whatever, they weren't happy they didn't get the boat ramp downtown. They wanted to put those concrete blocks like they do everywhere. This would get a standard boat ramp that they do. And the town said that it was historic and didn't want it changed. And so they were doing it.
From the charrette, where's the point that the pedestrian bridge was suggested to cross the Black Creek?
There's two proposed locations.
You could use the inlay where your elbow is, the bigger view. for your
Oh,
time.
yeah. Thank you. Let's start here as a boardwalk. Around here. Not colonial. Cut over. Sewer.
Yes, thank you.
Well, it's just
Oh,
an
that's
access,
part of
it's
it.
just an access road at that point.
I thought there was a proposal for,
Yeah, it was right, it's right here at
So-
the narrows.
Oh.
And then,
That would connect to this?
yep,
Okay.
and here's the connect right there. And then there's other trails in here.
And the second proposal is downtown.
Downtown,
Water, no water.
so right here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Somewhere
okay, that's right.
Right here.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they were.
Arbor Park, right next to Arbor Park. It's
Yeah,
right here.
Across there.
That's so wide.
that's so wide, that's why this is a lot narrower here, but the
That's the
town,
land,
yeah, the private property is right there, so it would really be so much easier to acquire.
I think this one would be the best.
Well, the elevation suits you already.
Yeah.
Here you've got elevation issues because it's going to have to allow for boats to go up and down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, elevation would work here too.
Oh, yeah,
Based
the
on
elevation is
yeah,
fantastic on
so,
both sides. Yeah, it's just hugely steep on both sides here.
I don't know if you guys, have you checked that out yet? The plan in New Hampshire?
I
recommendation?
remember
skimmed the
the ideas that they come up with are some, like, this is obviously, that would
How about a human-powered gondola?
be, yeah.
They go from Stone Church down to the airport.
Yes.
It's a zip line.
Yeah, that would work.
That's a zip line.
Yes. That would be fun. That would be really fun. Why not?
Cool, all right, so we got opportunities, challenges, anything else you want us to?
This is a lot of fun, but this is really, really good.
This is
This is really good.
And what do folks think about taking a look at, well, Mark, what do you think about the street class?
Yeah.
Kind of thinking about, that's what the other map is for?
Yes.
Correct?
So that is not color coded, so this will look even better with all the different colors we've got. So should be the same level of zoom. Yeah.
So basically our criteria based on what Lindsay
Yes.
provided.
As the jumping off.
Yeah,
Let's grab
So-
that.
Trying to maybe rename.
yeah, you should probably read the,
Yeah, I think.
Just having a first crack at a local classification scheme, kind of based on level of use or comfort or whatever for pedestrians and cyclists and vehicles that multimodal. And this is, Lizzie put together some, the primarily, was it from Lebanon?
Yep.
They have their policy in place. So wanted to take a first look at where either streets that are desired, like we talked about New Road, or ones you think are good examples of like quiet street or a neighborhood street. And let's put together some examples or potential.
yeah, I inserted some streets, our street segments that kind of already have that feel, like placemaking, it's really just that Main Street area currently. There are talks to expand that along South Main Street and maybe expand that on North Main Street, and potentially some of Exeter Road, but having that be the similar feel that we have existing on Main Street in downtown, specifically from the Lamprey to that awkward intersection with 152. So there's opportunity for that to be the placemaking street and extend outward a little bit from that short segment. And then I added names on here just because they were similar to Lebanon's, but felt a little more Newmarket. Regional connectors are a lot of these rural streets that go from downtown to another town or pass through. Ash Swamp is kind of a classic
Yeah,
rural cut through.
great.
Grant,
And Water Falls Road.
yep, Weatherly Falls, Packers Falls, and Bay Road and Dame Road. They all have kind of a similar feel, and those are all good opportunities for considering bicycle facilities, but are not likely good opportunities for pedestrian or other, primarily pedestrian. Could be better consideration for transit if we're looking at routes and stuff like that, but those would be the regional connectors. And then local connectors, I kind of saw as similar style of streetscape. Like Lang's Lane is a good example. That doesn't necessarily connect into a different town, but connects some of the local streets and local neighborhoods to others.
Lang's Lane is a great example of a street that's marked 25. It's a really neighborhood street, but is used as a shortcut by many, 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 many people, and would really benefit from some way to either acknowledge that traffic is here and you accommodate it, or you totally discourage it. Because the way it is right now, people walk it a lot. It's not striped. There's no middle
Yeah.
stripe at all, and It,
Using the same color through.
and
Yes.
people walk,
That's
people
true.
walk there, people go on, on their daily walks, and then there's a lot of commuting going right through as a shortcut to get this way
Yeah. Does that.
Okay.
from Leavenworth Road.
So that would be one to kind of consider more in developing what the definitions of these. I threw some streets in here
Yeah.
based on the existing streets that we have, but this would be a helpful way to kind of define what we want the street to look more like in the future.
Yeah.
And if it fits better in a different category or modified categories. And then I have the neighborhood collector or neighborhood link. I consider stuff like Durrell Drive, Percy Lane. There are lots of neighborhoods off of those, and Bennett Way is another one. So they're kind of the links that bring those neighborhoods to downtown, or to the schools, or to other things like that. I think, what else did I throw in there? Beach Street, Elm Street, Spring and South, kind of those neighborhood connectors or links, collectors or links. And then a neighborhood street is kind of intended to be low traffic volumes. Everybody uses the roadway, more all user friendly type of streets.
Yeah.
And that's kind of some of these cross streets in New Village over here, or some of the more narrow, potentially one-way streets where you can have one-way traffic and use the other portion of the road width to
All of this way.
have other facilities. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of those. And that'll also kind of by default captures all of these. That really, you don't have a lot of traffic on there that are people that don't live there. It's not intended to be through, it's intended for the neighborhood feel. So that's a first cut at some categories.
And then we would then take those categories and see how are different traffic participants accounted for.
Right. And how do we want to change that? And
Yeah.
some of it's, like with placemaking, typically you would want pedestrian facilities and probably sidewalks on both sides.
Yeah.
And crosswalks clearly marked, and
benches.
benches, and street trees, and street lights, but you don't need that on neighborhood streets, and maybe your neighborhood streets definitely have no sidewalk, and try to have narrow road widths, but provide wider shoulders, so there's some opportunity to walk around the neighborhood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think this is excellent. I think this is exactly right. I kind of wonder in my mind if the DOT road should be something, but I actually would like it better that because, really, this is a completely different field than this.
Right.
Even though it's still a DOT road, we just don't write it off, we treat it differently.
Yeah.
So I like exactly what it is.
And this is kind of what can guide the vision of kind of that cross-section. And
Yeah.
how that could look, that kind of leads into the design. I see that Austin has that.
And then
that
we can
handout.
build in,
Let me bring one for myself.
somewhat of there's a traffic calming, engineered traffic calming
Right,
effect by the parameters, whether
Right.
the intersections are tabletops, or
Yeah.
we
travel lane widths that you can consider, and
yeah,
pavement markings, and yeah, that's where you have some flexibility to kind of define what those typical sections would look like.
I like the term placemaking a lot as a term. I'm not sure that, I think we might want to come up with a different name for that class, because I think the idea of placemaking is something that we should consider for all of these roads. So you're traveling along on 152, let's say, you want to take a break somewhere, but there's only shoulder, if you're lucky, or nothing. So you can't really stop anywhere safely. There's not a bench bench, there's not a tree that you're invited to just, okay, you can take a break here. I think it adds a lot to a road, and it slows traffic down, because now you have an element in the streetscape that's not just the regular, markings on the road. So I think placemaking and creating spaces like that adds to the street as a place to be
Are
in.
you saying, like,
Not
each
only
of
to
these
show-
classifications has its own placemaking role?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where
Yes.
the neighborhood street
Yes.
is a place to do X, and we design the road
Yeah,
to accommodate that.
Yeah.
And the regional connectors lead to a place somewhere, the trailhead, fishing hole, whatever.
and when you regional connector, if it's a car traveling, you're just going from here to wherever you're going. You're just going through. But when you're traveling on a bike with your 4-year-old, you're experiencing it's about the ride. It's about being there, not going through there, going past there. So I think having elements on the way that are, like historic markers, right? That kind of idea that we can,
I think there's something right up here, where you're in Lee at this point, but there's a pull-up
yeah,
and a kayak launch.
yes,
On that
exactly,
river. It's on
exactly.
152, but it's a beautiful place to pull over.
Or
Yeah,
the place
use
where
your cell
somebody
phone,
puts
text, or
a
whatever.
a library on the, one of those little
Right.
pocket libraries or whatever on the side. Or there's a beautiful tree, and we just emphasize that space a little bit, so that,
That's an interesting concept too, because I'm just thinking of this, on 152, as I said it, but you pull over and can text rather than trying to text while you're
Yeah.
driving.
Yep.
All of a sudden that's leading into safety. If all of a
Yep.
sudden somebody can pull over, take a phone call easily.
or pull over on your bike and
Yeah.
and text.
You make me think that they have that at the Portland airport. They have an area as you're getting to Portland, Oregon. They have very big signs, like, I forget what they call it, but for people to pull over and text, check their arrival, like
Yeah.
if they're going to pick someone
Yeah.
up or whatever. So you're not driving around in circles like trying to dodge traffic and check
Yeah.
on the Alaska arrival.
There's I just seen an airport that had a kissing zone, 2-minute maximum. It's like, that's kind of funny, I took
That's
a
fun.
kissing zone.
So, yeah, I'm wondering a little bit more about the role of this in the master plan, if this is just kind of an overlay, but then, so, just going with the current thing here, if this is a placemaking road or placemaking section, we've talked a bit about this becoming a same thing and this in the future.
Right.
Um,
In natural growth.
So, yeah,
So
maybe,
what is
yeah.
how does that work in reality? Maybe that's 2 steps too far for me
Well,
to
that's
think
something
about.
during implementation.
Yeah, for the town, what is
Yeah.
if that's maybe not a question for tonight, but that's in my head, is like, what does that look like for the implementation
Right, so
of
I
that?
think-
Requirements for developers or future
I think
CIP stuff?
definitely, like, I think, developing street regs, like, for future improvements, like, future developments, if they're gonna create new streets, or if they're abutting a street, that they consider, or have to make these improvements.
Yeah. Opportunities.
So if a new, there aren't going to be too many of these, but
Right.
if a new development were to be proposed, this is what the streetscape should look like. Well, these elements should be,
Yeah. Considered
yeah.
if they could be fit in, yeah.
So I think what I'd like maybe to do is do existing, existing classification and aspirational, where do we want to go? Like, do we want to expand, say that place in the street? Do we want, in the future, how do we get there? Or do we want to make more quiet neighborhood streets? Again, that's, I think, something that we may want to consider.
So then we have 2 tasks. We have to
Do existing.
more clearly define what we mean here.
Yes.
Maybe use a couple of actual examples where elements of these are present or fully present or whatever, so that there's an example attached to these categories.
Yep.
An in-town example, and then where would we want to see those categories be applied.
Right.
Yeah. What's the order there?
So in each category, like to your idea that each one of these has a placemaking element, you know, when we define the streetscape, there might be things that are, let me see how to put this, like you said, for example, a place where you would pull over in taxi, or a place where you would pull over. Perhaps we would define, like that would be on a regional connector, like perhaps, you know, Pie in the Sky, or maybe someday, some here where on Exeter Road or 108, we say, okay, here's a spot where we can make a little spot. It says, you pull over, do your texting here, just as an example. So in each of these, there's going to be, maybe we define an opportunity for placemaking in each of these as we go through. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not necessarily going to be continuous along the cross-section of the roadway.
Right.
It might be a single thing
Yeah.
in that classification.
Desired elements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are these gonna be, like standards, you know, like, a placemaking road will have like a certain speed limit, max, and, you know, is that what these are going to?
Yeah,
is
not,
the idea?
I don't know if it would necessarily be speed limit max, that's kind of dictated by, there are other things that go into that. But in terms of the complete streets elements and where sidewalks should be versus where we should maybe consider share lanes or shared use paths or alternative
Design
to
goals.
sidewalks.
More the
Yeah.
hard goals.
Right.
I think we can control the hardscape stuff, we can't control behavior elements, speed, like regulated speed. You know, like that, that's, like I said, it's a lot more complexity, you know, to do.
Yeah, it's kind of, that was a good term, design elements. It's a way to kind of outline what design elements should be considered when a new road is probably almost all going to be reconstruction, but when a road is being reconstructed, or if there is a new development that's coming onto it, and you're going to have a new driveway and an intersection, then the developer will know that on this road, these design elements need to be considered, and on this one, these design elements. So it kind of clarifies the process.
Or the road width and profile will have a much bigger impact on speed than numbers on a sign.
Right.
Order,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so horrible. Like, be driving at 50 miles an hour, and then there's a transition to 35, and the road doesn't change. Nothing changes.
Right.
Nothing. So why am I going slower? I don't know.
That's
You just have to.
Stream.
You know,
It's
yeah.
a pretty hang out.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, yeah, it makes you kind of wonder. But then when you come into town, even if there were no speed limit signs at all, you kind of slow down to 20, 25, I do anyways, to 20, 25 as you're going through Main Street, just because of the
A
way.
lot of, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that
it's
was,
just- it's just the way it is.
engineered
Yes.
to make you feel that way.
Yes.
It was designed to do that by the road narrowing in, and, you know, it's all, that was a concept to slow, because people used to go through no town, sometimes doing 30, 35, and it was really scary,
Right.
you know?
And so, this road here is, 35, works okay sometimes, but most people go faster. There are, and it's a DOT road, like you said, but maybe there are things that we can do on the, out of the right of way that we can add either on private land or public land that brings some of these elements to bear, even though it's not a road that we actually control, like placemaking elements, for example, or elements that just change the view a little bit, so that you do feel like, oh, I'm impacted here, I don't see as well.
Yeah, so maybe a good exercise for us is to classify, and then based on what Lindsay come up and then came up with, and then we can, maybe modify a little bit, and then have a conversation, where do we like to expand? Certain, or subtract some areas, reimagine, different. How do you,
Is that something we could even sort of survey 1, 2, 3 thing where you all could, I don't know, just like homework, having these and use select different segments of road based on what you think those fits these things. So like Lex, local connector, placemaking, quiet street or whatever.
I hate to throw stuff on Lindsay's plate, but I'm gonna volunteer to put me in for saying, lift it up. But, I don't know if we all have to kind of say, this is a connector street, we can all see that. Maybe if one person marked it all, one person with an engineer background marked it all up.
I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
And then we can add.
Because it's the local knowledge and, the specificity and the person who's gonna be working with it, down the road. As, and I think we're all going to agree with what she identifies.
I think fine with whatever you guys want to do that, but
You want to raise your hand for me? Oh, she just did.
I could do, yeah, I could do, just like this. I could do a first cut with this, and maybe it's something you and I kind of, because there's definitely a planning element to what
Yeah.
these out design pieces are going to look like.
Yeah, then there's a negotiation, fine tuning negotiation, but the bulk of it is kind of, kind of clear.
that could be cool.
Sorry.
An element to consider here is, so we want to identify how different road users or network users are accommodated for. If we have, let's say, neighborhood collectors or local connectors that are more pedestrian friendly and more bicyclist friendly, maybe those are places where we can also place signage. So you don't, if you want to go downtown, you might think this is the quickest route, but this may be a safer way to go, even though it, so you have opportunities to, if you're on a bicycle and these are the bicycle signs. Or there are informal or formal, whatever, but there are path connectors that, if you're not familiar with it, you can't find without a sign.
Just like Newmarket specific wayfinding.
Newmarket specific
Rochester
wayfinding,
just did a
yeah.
bunch of that, including their parks and things around the area, so they had, I think they did it through a consultant. Like, everything was branded in the same color scheme with
Yes.
the logo
Yeah,
and all this stuff.
Portsmouth have done it too.
Yeah, a bunch of cities around here have done that. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Sort of guiding people to various places.
Yeah, or just around town. How do you get around town safely?
Maybe I'm getting too much into the weeds, but it's just thinking about where it could get tricky with things like this. It feels like you would want consistency between these, so you would want neighborhood streets to not have like one neighborhood and all of a sudden, like bifurcated by 108.
Yeah.
So you would want to have sort of, for someone to be in this place and walk along similar streets to within those neighborhoods. Am I making any sense, so that there's connectivity between
Like streets.
these, like the neighborhood streets, as much as possible are connected by neighborhood streets. So you don't have these awkward transition zones where someone's walking along a quiet street. I don't know.
But it's a nice planning goal, but there, a lot of times you go from Window Street
Yeah.
and then to the other
It breaks
one.
down all
You
over
just-
the place, that's true.
Yeah, you just have to, in this neighborhood, you have to traverse this road. It's the way it is.
Or maybe it's an objective or something to connect these neighborhood streets with like where'd it go? It's on the other map, the like
I think
school
there should be
trails
trails.
and things like
Yeah,
that.
this is the trail
It
network.
could,
Yeah.
if there isn't a trail network, and you cannot get from here to there without being on this larger road, then that means you'd have to accommodate that kind of traffic safely on this stretch of road. So then, if you're a pedestrian, and the only way to get from here to here, from neighborhood street to neighborhood street, is using this, whatever it happens to be, a local connector or a regional connector, then that way would need to be, your mode needs to be accommodated in a safe way, meaning there's either a path, a shared path, or there's a sidewalk.
Where possible, default to the lower, to the slower, safer
Yeah, exactly.
street design.
Exactly. So if you have to leave the cocoon of the friendly neighborhood street and enter the wild world of the regional connector, then you can do that. I mean, that would be kind of would follow that logic of being safe on the network. And I think that's what Complete Streets is all about in the end. All right, so should we spend time? Are you all right with it?
If any suggestions or recommendations on these categories or names?
The naming of the category?
Like-
The only thing, placemaking was the only one that seemed like we might need to try and, because we felt the placemaking could fit into everything.
Mhm.
So it's only that one that becomes,
Maybe something
you
else.
know, yeah, so it's something else. What is,
Destination.
Village.
yeah,
Village
might be-
boards.
To me, that's what the hallmark of this space is that it's very dense and very commercial.
And village makes it sound that way.
I think everybody just, I'm relatively new to town, but just hearing everybody talk, that's the word everyone uses to talk about downtown.
Yeah.
You're entering the village. Like I know, I've heard a couple of you say it.
Yeah, I like that.
And I've heard other people say it, not in this form. People talk about the village.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there's signs, mostly out in Western Mass and other places, where coming along a road and all of a sudden it's downtown, it says thickly settled.
Yeah.
That seems very, like,
That's
rural British to me. But that's what I'm thinking of, it's that, like, you're coming up to a village district or a downtown. Or
Yeah.
So would it be the village people?
The village, it's thickly settled, yeah, I can't.
Well, downtown district,
I think village
Village.
is a little warmer
Village
than
sounds- I
downtown,
agree.
seems a
It's-
little urban to me.
It's definitely more placemaking than downtown.
Yeah.
people were in the village.
Yeah.
Village
Yeah.
mindset.
The Newmarket skunks.
So I think the other thing that I would say, because of some of the discussion that we're having about connections between neighborhoods, I would maybe take out neighborhood link. The neighborhood collector would be for like Terrell and Hersey and Bennett type of street, and neighborhood links could be where we're looking to identify some of these other trail connect the
Fill in the
neighborhood
gaps.
to it, yeah, like, so neighborhood link may be more of the aspirational pieces that we're looking at, or
And
identifying.
one of one of the hallmarks of a neighborhood street to me, especially the ones that don't have sidewalks, like Maple Crest has a sidewalk, but it's a real great neighborhood street, is that you can walk on the street without having to worry about being run over, right? Because
Yeah.
and well, I talked about the Place Street concept.
Yeah.
That's kind of what where you can have your sidewalk chalk in the middle of the street and not worry
Everyone
about it.
can use it.
Yeah.
Roller hockey.
Yeah,
Car.
and we do that informally, but I think we have an opportunity to kind of encourage that, encourage the use of the street, of the public space that way by everyone. Because the more you do it, the more all of us are aware that that might be happening, so you don't end up speeding through or doing something silly. So
It brings people out of their homes too, so they're not silent.
Is there a pavement marking? I don't think there's a standard pavement marking that you could have that would be, kind of, how people put out the little stand-up thing that has a
children at play.
Right.
Yeah,
Is there a pavement marker or something that can be put on the road that's similar to that? To give that feel of
Probably
children at
is.
play?
I know some places there is. I've seen signs that it's like a multi-use road where there's a kid playing, somebody on a bicycle, it's stick figures, you know. I don't know, one thing about, I like pavement markings, but there's always the concern that you have to reapply them
Yeah,
almost
right.
every year.
Yeah.
And it, some months out of the year, they don't show up. Of course, the road's probably not being used for rollerblading in the winter, but,
This would be probably confusing for someone that doesn't go live in Newmarket, but what if we had street signs that have different colors that represents the street type?
yeah.
I don't think anybody would, only the people really in the know would know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah, you can.
I think you could.
I know it costs money, so money aside, but
Yeah.
can we legally actually do that?
No, the people, the historic districts do it all the time, have different color signs.
Right.
So, or what the, Village of Brown signs when it's a recreational facility, but
Right.
you can do that, and, the whole thing with it has to be reflective. I don't, it seems like it's kind of malarkey, some towns just totally gave up on it, and just didn't do it. Maybe they don't get state funding or federal funding, I don't know, but we were told one time they had the reflective signs, or you'll lose your federal funding. And,
If you're using any federal dollars, it's going to be the manual of uniform traffic.
Right, so,
It has all
but you
the
look at
regulations.
Henniker, or there's a different towns that have,
If
just
you're not using federal dollars,
yeah, you can do whatever you want, yeah.
there's a lot more flexibility.
But, it seemed like every town went through the debate, white signs, green signs, or blue signs. And Newmarket didn't decide, so we've got all three. So, get us done.
You
Yeah, I
do
agree.
see very often in a village or historic downtown area, they have a different
Yeah.
sign for those streets.
I
That's a
don't-
more old fashioned.
The Main Street Corporation wants that to happen.
Okay.
They, it's just a matter of, Steve wants to make sure we have a sign standard before we do anything. Just wants to have one sign standard, one master plan for signage. So it just hasn't happened right.
Yeah.
And this is totally not quite off the topic, but I'm just going to throw it out there because it's in my head, and then I'll totally ignore it again. But streets are usually named after someone or something, and it would be really neat to have a little plaque, a little addition to the street name, just attached right to it, pressed underneath that, this is, named after James Creighton or whatever, blah, 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 blah. So you have a little bit of something that goes along with the street instead of just, oh, this is Creighton Street. I wonder where that came from.
Right.
Maybe that's something for the
That is
historic
interesting.
commission to entertain, but it goes along with the placemaking idea a little bit.
What if there was a designation, going back to your Play Street idea, that neighborhoods that we didn't necessarily, or the town didn't necessarily decide, but was put out there that neighborhoods could petition to have their street designated as a family-friendly street or Play Street or some designation that they would then get signage that says, there are children, not watch for children, but just
That's
play
essentially what it is.
area, something like that. But the neighborhood association would have to come to the town and say, we want this on we want our street to have this feel.
A lot of towns did that with Neighborhood Watch. The neighborhood had to petition the town and get the Neighborhood Watch sign.
Yeah.
I don't know if it did much of anything, but
There's kind of my street.
came and went and signs the street.
Street
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm wondering if there's, again, way too in the weeds at this point maybe, but some sort of incentive for the neighborhood getting together and saying, we want our street designated X, so what does that mean beyond the sign? Are they prioritized in the CIP for some kind of thing, the next time that street gets repaved, so that it looks different? I don't know.
A bench or what. Yeah.
Something to make that designation real beyond, painting a sign.
what if we also had, these are more people outside,
different street color go into a certain direction. So for instance, like one color for all streets that lead to Village. So for instance, like Grant Road is the collector, has its own color that leads to the Village. So
You follow the purple streets.
you
to
follow,
downtown.
exactly, you
Or the
follow,
yellow brick
or the
road.
road, yeah, right, that
You could
you
put
go,
iron on bricks.
yeah.
You can tell them.
so,
So are you talking about the pavement, or are you talking about the street
the
signs?
the street signs.
The street
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, well, that's-
Really deal.
You kinda need, because then it's just like, you know, it's another way of direction. You don't need this or anything, yeah, just follow the sign. And eventually I'm gonna get to downtown, or,
I don't know, I think you have to spell it out and say downtown
yeah,
that way, because
maybe.
the coloring is, does anybody know what
Yeah.
level
That's what I'm
orange
saying,
is
right.
with FEMA? Is there a homeland security threat level 1? Nobody knows what it means. You know?
I mean, you could have something along those lines with maybe blocks, squares underneath the street, and you could have multiples. So you're still following the purple, but it also happens to be orange because it also goes there,
Mhm.
right? So Grant Road could have, that kind of thing.
Right.
I think it might be, that you'd have to have the legend with you always.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Then,
this is what-
maybe Mike's right where it says
Yeah.
like Village on top of the street sign.
Yeah.
That way.
Which, again, it's one of those subtle things that says our downtown is important to us. Downtown is important here in Newmarket. Take care of it. If you're pointing to downtown.
Yeah.
Just-
No, that is hugely from the consensus what we saw from the surveys is the Village is important to everybody. We love the historic downtown, small town feel, and I think that is important that we continue to preserve. Well, we have to, that's what the town wants to do.
And it is, another thing that we haven't talked about today, but we talked about in the past, are these satellite parking areas. So that would be a great opportunity to have signs that say to downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. What if we had town land, or we worked with someone, like, I was thinking, like, those folks to get downtown without using a car, we have like a satellite parking lot. They park there, then they get the trail or something, and they can walk right in. So they don't have to drive all the way into town, theoretically just, have a nice, comfortable walk to downtown.
It's like one of those design elements that you've got your
Placemaking,
local
yeah.
connectors or regional
Well,
connectors.
that's what
Identify.
Hanco Park is in Portsmouth, is you've got free parking outside of town, then you walk along the river in Hanco Park, which is the old city manager's name, and then you're downtown. But if you want to park for free, there's a place.
I mean, at the bank.
No, it's at a church, but in the town maintains the church's parking lot. Right as 95, Market Street goes under 95, and there's a church on the left-hand side, on the water side, and you can park there for free. And then there's a beautiful walk along the river. In 10 minutes, you're in downtown, you don't have to pay for parking. Certain cheap people.
I was
do
just
that.
parked at the bank at the dog park.
Oh, yeah,
Same-
no,
same-
yeah,
same deal.
even though, yeah, it's super secret
Oh,
parking
yeah.
spots. You're not supposed to give up super secret parking spots.
Okay, so Lindsay, you're gonna take a crack at kind of designating some of these things based on this.
Identify some typical sections
Yeah.
and elements.
I don't get the feeling I'm gonna have wastewater coming into my domestic lines.
And we'll play with this idea of like a village, whatever, village way, or village place, or village core or something instead of a place.
I think a really great goal for the master plan could be to have a much more complete handle on the existing trails in town. Formal, informal, just get a.
Conservation Commission might have some good
Yep,
maps
that would be a
already.
good place to start, and then the schools and the
Yeah.
neighborhoods in
Yeah.
general.
Amy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that we get, we feel more comfortable that we know where they are, what they do, the kind of conditions, maybe we even have some photos
An inventory.
and inventory.
It would
Yeah,
be nice in the end to have a town map that showed,
yes,
like, bicycle paths,
right,
trails,
right.
showed all this, that we had here at Town Hall, that when you're new to town, you come to register your car, you there it is sitting there and you can get it.
Yes.
Or, they're downtown for people who are visiting their places.
Yeah, trying to weigh whether, I think in so many towns it's Conservation Commission, but we're transportation, so I guess that is something we do, but it just seems that they might already have this.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of trails, but I think there's so we're responsible for these trails because that's the land that we're responsible for maintaining.
Right.
But we don't really have an inventory of these trails
These
that
trails
are,
are
that are
links between neighborhoods.
different organization or they're informal or
Right.
what have you.
Right.
And bringing that all together, I guess that's what our job would be.
So I wonder how Nancy's GIS skills are, what did that
Probably pretty good, or
I would imagine.
I mean, I would think so too.
Definitely in the
The
wastewater treatment.
woman that can do everything.
But if we, no, but I like the idea of just approaching different folks in town and just just picking their brain as to what they know about the trails, which trails they're.
Well, yeah, there are some cool ones, and there are some that are on town land,
Yeah.
and people just don't know about them.
Right.
Or not everybody, there's a few that are in the know that remember some planning board meeting once upon a time, or something like that.
Yeah, you just remember, well, you've discovered it and you think you're the first one who ever discovered it. Wow, this is such a great trail. I can't believe nobody's using it.
Yeah, well, I know there's a class 6 road that, the people who live nearby don't want everyone to forget about it. It's right out here, I guess. But it comes up Dayton Road, but I think it's probably in Durham. But the people who live out down there kind of want it to be forgotten about, but it's technically town road.
So, next steps, next meeting, I think we are going to take a bite on, or take a stab at some goals and things.
Yeah.
Master plan. At least that's what I saw for goals and objectives and stuff based on the outreach. So I've been kind of pulling together some ideas for those.
And I don't know how you all feel about that, but we have not talked about, we talked a little bit about parking, but I think we need to bring that more formally into the chapter. And then the other piece is public transit. Because one of the goals from the survey was pretty clear, is that there's a desire to reinvigorate, let's say, public transit. And so we should have some thoughts about how that might, process, laying out a potential process.
Yeah, there was clearly a mandate in the outreach results to talk
Right.
about parking and then the public transit as
Yeah.
well.
But, the thing that I feel nervous about is that Coast and Wildcat both service Destiny and drop just due to lack of ridership.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
Or other priorities, yeah. Because Wildcat, I don't know.
the Wildcat has a lot of students
Yeah.
moved out of town, and
Right.
prices went up, but Coast Coast lasted a lot longer, it was another 3, 4, 5 years, but we both dropped for lack of ridership. So how do we make public transit more?
Well, it's interesting because Coast is, like, the service that exists is gaining in popularity. More and more people are using it. It's the, you basically call for a ride and, have an appointment, which is, it's a good service and it works. But it's very limited as to where you can go. You can go essentially into Exeter and.
Yeah, it's $1.50, or I can spend $5 and have Uber that day,
Yeah.
because you have to go 24 hours in advance.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be at 1 or 2.
I mean, for some people that the price makes a difference, but I think that what we were told is that people want connectivity to Durham.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist, and, on into Portsmouth. And Dover, obviously. But getting into Durham would provide
I
that.
mean, a more regularly scheduled micro-public transit, is taking a full-size bus
Yep.
up and down with 3 people in it
Yeah,
isn't necessarily the best thing, or with
Totally
no
agree.
people in it.
yeah,
But if it were, the beautiful thing that we all think about someday in the future, if we have a northbound lane and a southbound lane on the rail, you could run commuter rail between, and then it's really energy efficient. And you could have, just a car, which wouldn't have to stop at stoplights. But that's
Yeah,
probably not my lifetime.
nope, I don't think so either. We do have the bus pull-offs on 108. They're all there, so would be nice to be able to use them again.
But the things that we can do to try and incentivize using public transit is we have a bicycle rack at the pull-offs. So you can ride your bike to the bike, you lock your bike out and not worry about it. We could have a bench, a piece of granite sitting there so you can sit like waiting for so we make it more, we still have the bus stops that we
Exactly.
walk all
Yeah.
over town. They
Yeah.
turn into like,
Yeah,
little libraries
right.
or used furniture dumps.
Furniture store on Elm Street.
Yeah, exactly, but it's always, how do we make mass transit cool or desirable? And it's,
I'd like to have a conversation about what kind of options how do we get from where we are now, where we're barely served by Coast, to where the participants in the survey would like us to be? What's a path that we could take? What are steps that we could pursue in order to get there? I don't know, but I'd like to have a conversation about that. Because otherwise, how do we come up with a goal for the master plan that's reasonable? Obviously, we all know, we'd like to have, every 10 minutes a bus going up and down 108, that would be awesome, but it's, we have to start where we are.
What would Newmarket look like in that future to justify that level of service is kind of the question in my head. So if there's sort of it feels like there's a public transit pivot discussion as the fixed route has kind of evaporated, and yet there is still demand for medical employment and like recreation. Because what we heard from folks and shopping, what we heard from folks through the survey was when they were talking about public transit, sort of local or regional public transit, I would use it to get to C&J or Amtrak or another mode to get to Boston or Portland or whatever. So worthy discussion to be had. There's sort of like local needs in terms of folks that need to get to dialysis or their jobs or whatnot. So separate from fixture.
I would also like to, if that's possible, invite the recreation department into that conversation as a beginning. Just because I think there's opportunity in thinking through what town-owned assets are and how they could be used. Could they be used differently, and under what circumstances?
So you want to be part of the recreation chapter development, so, it might be more efficient to be part of those discussions. And then, we talked about the last subcommittee for the master plan, we kind of cross-pollinate and then you come back to liaison between the two, and then, it might be more productive.
Okay.
We can still invite them to come, but.
No, that sounds so,
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I'll put you on the list.
I think it's important, we always kind of think 20 years down the road for transportation, because what strikes me now is that how many Amazon trucks I see.
Yeah.
What's that mean? It's less people going to the store. How many people go to the mall? What did people go to the mall last year? None of us, it's like that's gone away. We just Amazon it, and, I've got a tenant who gets his toilet paper through Amazon. He doesn't go to the store, he just orders everything. So those are the realities with the microtransit, the electric bikes. More and more people have electric bikes and scooters, and suddenly we don't need mass transit so much. When you've got a scooter that'll get me there anytime I want. 3 in the morning, I can go.
Right, that's exactly it, and so what we need to think about is what do the streetscapes need to look like so that those
10 and
moments
20 years
can
down
be
the road.
used safely, and you can connect to the C&Js.
And that's where the standards come in.
And those,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, where encased in that is pedestrian speed, walking, unless you're training for the Tour de France, you're going, 10, 15 miles an hour on a bike maybe. And then there's vehicle speeds.
Yeah.
And that gray area is being bridged by e-bikes and scooters that can easily do 15 to 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So what does this section of Exeter Road need to look like in 5, 10 years?
Yes.
For that multimodal gray area, which is like they're seeing that up in Durham with the downtown as a pedestrian-friendly area, but cars are not expecting someone on an e-bike or a scooter to zip across the crosswalk at 20 miles an hour coming from the sidewalk, where in their head, it's like, I'm driving down the road is for cars. There's the sidewalk, that's for things going under 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and they're not expecting that.
And it's already hard enough to expect, a person going like this,
No, they're
turning, walking.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
they're
there are
on
a
a
lot of
scooter.
accidents that way, of people going too fast on a crosswalk in some sort of microtransit.
So I forget who said it, but it sounds like we're all in agreement. It's like, this is for thinking about that.
Yeah.
What will the modal mix look like?
The other thing that these e-bikes are doing is that what used to be considered a short trip,
Yes.
where somebody would bike maybe, oh, I live here and I'll bike into town. That person may now, with an e-bike, go all the way to Durham.
Right.
Or,
It's
exactly,
extended the short trip.
in the future,
Yeah.
if there were a connection to Portsmouth, an afternoon e-bike trip into Portsmouth from Newmarket would be totally reasonable.
Yeah.
I just used a rail scooter for about 3 miles.
Sure.
Jumped on a scooter and
Right.
3 miles,
Right.
quicker than taking a bus.
So somebody who couldn't manage that, didn't feel they could manage that physically on a regular bike,
Mhm.
now can do it.
Yeah, I recognize people commuting around Rochester on my drives. There are 2 or 3 people that I recognize on e-bikes.
Yeah, you do see it on 108 going up toward Durham. You see a lot of them.
Yeah.
Who's always on the e-scooter right now?
I don't know here.
Is that you
That's the one
downstairs?
outside.
Yeah. They're gonna be everywhere. They make all the sense in the world.
All right, I would suggest we have 10 of 9 that we
Start getting ready for that.
check in with our agenda. Well, that too. Check in with the time. Check in with our agenda and maybe leave everything else for the next meeting. It sounds like we have plenty for you guys to take home. And are you comfortable with the task on your plate, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the next meeting, yes.
For the, I don't know what the, I guess the master plan is more of a text piece anyways, but
It runs parallel to Main Street.
I think I mentioned this last time, but I think a graphic is even in the master plan of an example of a streetscape or something like that would just add something rather than here you have to read through all this text. It's just so. Oh yeah. It's just no fun, like something to catch your eye, a placemaking thing in the text, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make a little cross-section for each of these, or some sort of.
Yeah, even if it's icons, but something that gives it a little bit more of a visual appeal.
we were planning on that.
That's cool.
Remind me, what's the total date for the December meeting? Or has that been, is that TBD?
Well, that's TBD. It's second Wednesday. Or if that is.
I think that should work in December too, right?
Yeah.
December
11th.
All right, we have already gone way through
Yeah.
everything, other business and just, we're good.
Yeah.
And if there's no objection, I would take a motion to, no, I'll consider us adjourned.
Okay.
No, just do a motion. So make a motion.
December
We'll make
11th
a
at
motion.
5:30?
Motion?
No, 7. So
Master plan is 5:30.
I'd prefer someone make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay, fair enough.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I'll
Anybody?
second.
Austin?
It's like, oh, I'll second.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody.
Excellent.
Excellent. Unanimous. The ayes have it. We are officially adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.